Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. Today we have a Chinese Type 56 SKS. Now, the story of the SKS starts in everybody's favorite place, the Soviet Union. So during World War II, Mosin Nagant is quite often used by the Soviet Army. It's a bolt-action rifle, much like many other nations during World War I and World War II. And at the later end of the war, they started moving over to semi-auto rifles, such as the SVT-40, or for the United States, the M1 Garand. And the Soviets decided that they needed more of these semi-auto rifles and later on carbines. An inventor by the name of Sergei Simonov came up with the design of the Russian SKS. They used it during trials, and in the test phase of the weapon, they actually used the prototypes against the Germans at the end of World War II, which is very funny because they just, instead of just using it as a prototype, they actually just tested it in combat. So that's a very funny detail. In World War I, the Russian Empire actually created a similar looking weapon called the Fedorov, which is a full auto 7.62 by 54R self-loading rifle, which had a lot of problems and was also extremely hard to produce. And they realized that they didn't need that big of a round in combat because of the relative engagement distance that they discovered, and partially due to the invention of the STG-44, they realized that an intermediate cartridge was all they needed. So the Russians came up with the 7.62 by 39, which we all know famously is shot by the AK-47. So as part of the design of the SKS, they also used that intermediate cartridge, as well as some of the other design features like shortening the overall length, and that's when we got the Russian SKS design. It is a vertical locking system, so as you can see, the bolt will drop down, pick up the round, will lock into place like this. Uses a short stroke piston, which is in the gas tube, which takes vented gas off of the barrel, pushes that rod into the bolt carrier, which sends it back and then repeats the process. It has a 10-round internal magazine, which is often fed by stripper clips. As well as on the Russian design, they added the addition of a bladed fixed bayonet. However, this design is a spike. And if you thought you were going to get this far through the video without seeing me stab something with it, you were wrong.
I had the safety on. What?
The exact one that you see in front of you is a Chinese
我在北京
Type 56 SKS. There's a lot of Type 56s in Chinese weapon manufacturing. It's most commonly known as just the Chinese SKS. The SKS had a very short lifespan. As we know, the invention of the AK-47 pretty much took over the entire Soviet arsenal and similar comblock countries. And the SKS was very, very shortly phased out after they pumped out around like 2 million of them from 1949 to 1950 when they completely halted production. However, the Chinese decided to keep manufacturing them and keep exporting them around the world. And you most commonly see these, as well as Russian SKSs, in Vietnam and even in the Korean War. It's best known for being one of the last iterations of World War II combat rifles until they switched over to the assault rifle design like the STG-44 or AK-47. And even the overall length of it being a 40 inches and then the barrel being 20 inches, the overall length to the barrel did not add any ballistic capability to the 7.62 by 39 round, making it very obsolete in the eyes of the AK-47, which held more ammo, had a removable magazine, had full auto capability, and being even more simple of a design. However, it still looks super cool and is still used widely around the world. They're still used in Africa, a lot of Asian countries, and I'm sure a lot of the audience recognizes this from a lot of places in the United States. These used to be extremely cheap, and a college kids' favorite who couldn't afford an AK-47. However, these are climbing in price a lot more, with them being a lot more hard to come by than they used to be. However, they're still a very cool weapon, very interesting, and it's a part of history, and it's the AK's older, uglier brother, so I, of course, have to do a video on it, and I will still show it a little love and appreciation because it is a part of history, and that is something I really like to come here and do for you guys. I hope y'all enjoyed. This has been the Chinese Type 56 SKS. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. So like I said, the Chinese ended up using a spiked bayonet. Oh,